guys, welcome to this latest episode of the Mufasa Sports Clubs. As you already know, I am your host Mufasa, and thanks again for the continued support that you guys provide to the channel. We're going to be talking about Game 3 and 4 of the NBA Finals tonight, and I'm going to start up with Game 3, which actually both games were won by the Oklahoma City Thunder. And Game 3 was a pretty interesting game back in Indiana, where the Pacers had a chance to get this series to 3-1 and ended up losing that game after leading by a comfortable margin. But I think with some very questionable calls by Scott Foster, so-called referee, that I'm still not sure how he's basically refereeing these kind of games. I'm not sure what the NBA is doing on that end, but it is what it is. I think he had some very questionable calls during that game, and obviously these missed free throws by the Pacers at the end, pretty much by like the fourth quarter, especially Bennett Mathurin, who had a great Game 3, but unfortunately didn't have a very good Game 4. And missed a bunch of crunch free throws out there. The Thunder actually get home court advantage back and go back to Oklahoma for Game 4 that they win 109-120 and take a 3-2 lead on the series. One thing that I want to point out is the fact that I think this series is over. I don't see Oklahoma City lose 2 games in a row, especially with having one more game at home. Bearing, of course, like I've been saying, any injuries, major injuries on their end. I don't think they're losing 2 games in a row, so I think the series is over. I honestly do not know whether it's going to be over in 6 or 7, but I know the Thunder will probably be the NBA champions, as I have predicted initially, but of course not within the amount of games that I initially said. Major props to the Indiana Pacers, man. This team has been a major surprise again this year, and regardless of the outcome, whether it ends in 6 or 7, I just think there's nothing that they have to be ashamed of in their run in the conference finals and even in the NBA finals here. Kudos to them. Kudos to the front office, the head coach. I do have some reservations about Rick Carlisle coaching tonight, but overall, I think this is a great season, and they definitely overachieved. And this is a good base to continue to build on and grow for the future. Kudos again to these guys. The amount of passion and resilience that they have displayed is really something to study. I really want to take my hat off and tip my hat off for this team. And the Thunder are just a better team pretty much, and it's the better team is probably going to win this. So in terms of Game 4, 109-120, one of the adjustments that I noticed by Mark Daigneault on the Thunder side for these past 2 games was actually the minutes of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If you guys have paid attention, Shai was actually at the beginning of the series playing the whole first quarter, but we noticed that he has been now trying to get him out after the first 6-7 minutes of the game and get him back in a little bit before the second quarter, which this has been done throughout the 4 quarters of the game, which allows SGA to come and be a little fresher at the end of the fourth quarter. I also noticed that he ended up going back to that double big lineup with Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. As I was saying, you don't fix something that is not broken. So I think that has been also very impactful for the Thunder, and they've been matching the minutes between Isaiah Hartenstein and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the sense where Hartenstein is probably one of the best screeners in the NBA, besides Steven Adams, I would say, and possibly Joel Embiid, to be quite honest. I think the the amount of space that he allows Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to have on the pick and roll with his screens is just amazing, and it's been very helpful against the defense that the Pacers are playing against SGA. So very good adjustment by Mark Daigneault. Man, T.J. McConnell, man, this guy is just he's unbelievable. I cannot stress that enough, and this is one of my reservations, like I was saying about Rick Holland coaching tonight, because man, T.J. McConnell came in and gave the Pacers such a boost from the bench with, literally helping them come back to a 2-point game. And you substitute him to bring Tyrese Haliburton back, and the Thunder go on the run. You can clearly see that Tyrese is diminished, but of course, because of the playoff prowess that he's been having, you want to have your best player in the game in crucial moments. But I think this was the chance for Rick Holland to maybe, experience another lineup and see if they can. I know because of defense, they don't want to necessarily play them on long stretches together. But I think you had to find a way to bring, T.J. McConnell back in the mix, because he was the one really causing problems to the Pacers, the Thunder by himself. He ends up with 18 points in 22 minutes, and he had the hot hands, and I'm not sure why you would literally just go away from him even though your star player is on the bench. I just don't understand that. And like I said, we could clearly see that Tyrese has been bothered by a leg injury. That doesn't explain the fact that he's been so nonchalant and not aggressive in the beginning of the game. This has been happening since the beginning of this series, and I'm not sure if it's what it is, if it's him just, that habit of him being a pass first point guard, or what it is. But it's just been, I think that's been one of the keys of this series too, the fact that Tyrese hasn't really been aggressive from the beginning of the series, from the beginning of the games. And tonight was really like a bad game for him. He ends up with 4 points, and I just think they should have gone with T.J. McConnell way more than they did, especially with the leg injury from Tyrese. When you pull him out like that at the beginning of the fourth, I believe, as soon as the Pacers the Thunder go on the run, I will bring him back in the game. Whether it's with Tyrese, or see how Tyrese is reacting, and then maybe pull him back on the bench, even though, the media might make that a storyline or whatever the case it might be. But at least you had the leg injury that you could use to justify that, and see what else TJ can bring you in this game. So I think that was a major mistake by Rick Carlisle, and I'm sure when he watches the film, he will probably question that on his end. So of course, like I said, the Pacers have the ability to win Game 6 back in Indiana, but like I said, I just think the Thunder will not lose 2 games in a row with just 2 games left in the series. So kudos again to Mark Daigneault as well for the adjustments that he's been making. Like I said, with restructuring SGA's minutes. Jalen Williams has been amazing. They've been playing a lot more through him, and having Shai play off the ball a little bit more. Amazing tonight. J-Dub actually finished the game with 40 points, 4 assists and 6 rebounds. Great game by him as well. And like I said, great adjustments by Mark Daigneault on his end, by going back to that double big lineup with Chet and SG as well. The only thing that I'm not sure of when TJ McConnell, because it's not the first time in this series that he's been having these amazing runs from the bench, is why they're not really putting Alex Caruso on him when he's in the game. I think Caruso will do a way better job than anybody else that they put it on TJ McConnell when he is in the game. I'm not sure if it's just them underestimating his impact still, or what it is. But I personally think if the Pacers manage to win Game 6 back home and this series goes to 7, in that Game 7 you would have to have Alex Caruso on T.J. McConnell to kind of neutralize, or at least attempt to neutralize him more. So it'll be fun to watch. Let's see what happens for these next game or games, depending on if the Thunder are able to close this in Indiana, or if it comes back for a 7. If I'm the Thunder, you might want to close this thing. I'm just saying, like I said, I still think they will win, but with how young the team is, you don't necessarily want to put so much pressure on them on a Game 7. A lot of things could happen in a Game 7. Injuries could happen. Chet Holmgren has been, tremendous for them, but also twisted his ankle a couple of times, has been banged up. You want to close this in 6 if you the Thunder. A lot of things, like I said, can happen in a Game 7. A player from the Pacers could just go hot and just mess the whole thing up. So I would try my best to finish this thing in 6 if I'm Mark Daigneault and Oklahoma City Thunder. One more thing that I want to talk about before we leave is the trade that happened between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Orlando Magic. The Magic are getting Desmond Bane from Memphis for Cole Anthony, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and 4 first-round picks and a pick swap. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I do not like this trade for the Magic for a couple of reasons. This is a Magic team that, like I said, I'm going to have some off-season guide for every single team, hopefully, in the NBA for this upcoming off-season. But we all knew, or at least I knew, one of the weaknesses of this Magic team was ball handling and shooting. Now, you do get a shooter, which I think is more so like a streaky shooter than a steady or consistent three-point shooter. You do get that with Desmond Bane, but you also get rid of one of the only shooters that you had last year, which was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. The Magic was the last team in three-point shots made last year. They were the worst team in 3 points last year. So you can't just add by subtracting. This is more so like add on to the shooters that you already have, and I just don't think Desmond Bane moves the needle that much for you to give up 4 first-round picks, which will, I think, has the 16th pick from the Suns this year, if I'm not mistaken. Or actually, no, the 16th pick from the Magic this year, and a first-round pick from the Suns next year, with the Suns probably being kind of bad next year. So I think there were some valuable picks in there, and giving up KCP after 1 year for Desmond Bane is also something that I'm not a fan of. I think they should have held on to him. Next year would have been, after next year, he would be an expiring contract, if I'm not mistaken. So he was still going to be easy to move next season if you wanted to move off from him. So I think they should have just tried to add on to the roster that they have with, guys like Tyus Jones, for instance, as far as ball handling ability, or shooters, extra shooters. You could go with Sam Hauser, for instance, with the Celtics trying to lower the salary cap out there, or look for any other player. Another thing that this does is it's now triggering the second apron for the Magic, so they'll have to shed some salaries out there in order to avoid that second apron in this upcoming season. I think you can't be that expensive unless you really going for a championship, and I do understand the approach with the East being so wide open with Boston and then uncertainties out there in Milwaukee and the Knicks and all that, and the Sixers. So the East is indeed wide open. But if you want to go for a swing like that and give up so many assets, in my opinion, you should go for a guy like, Trae Young, for instance, or Jamal Murray from the Nuggets, or even Darius Garland, even though he's gonna be injured for a good chunk of the season. But I'm a little reticent when it comes to this trade from the Magic and what they had to give up. Desmond Bane is a very good talent, very good player, but I just don't think he's worth 4 first-round picks. Plus, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and what's his name, Cole Anthony. Although you're also getting rid of the KCP contract, which is not really being, panning out to be a great contract. But you also got to take in consideration the fact that Desmond Bane in the next years, this upcoming season, is making $36 million, $39 the following year, and then the next two, 42 and 44. So he's not coming in cheap either, and you still have Paolo Banchero that you have to extend, who's probably going to come in a max contract, and you already have the Wagner's brothers and Jalen Suggs making considerable amount of money. So, we'll see who was right and who was wrong in the future, but that's my opinion on the Magic side. I think on the Grizzlies side, this is a very good trade for them. One, I wasn't a fan of that contract that they gave to Desmond Bane when they first extended him, so they get rid of that contract. They get a guy like KCP who can come in and be in the backup with Ja Morant, or come off the bench, and who can play defense. And if he gets his shooting motion back, he's a very good three-point shooter. He was really crucial in the Nuggets winning the championship the year that they won. On top of that, you do get 4 first-round picks and a pick swap, which, you can never have enough picks, especially in this new CBA where you pretty much forced to draft better, develop your younger players in order to be able to be competitive. And I think that's a good approach on the Grizzlies side. This now gives you enough cap space as well to extend Jared Jackson Jr. and even Santi Aldama, I believe, if you want to. And Ja Morant is also trade eligible. Extension is eligible this year if you want to do it. But you have, I think, enough ammo now to go whichever route that you want, as far as like a retool, or even if you want to just, completely rebuild and get off Ja Morant's contract or Jared Jackson Jr. as well, which I highly doubt the Grizzlies will do. So they can now go again and acquire some additional pieces out there and try to go for a run in the Western Conference again. So like I said, we're going to have some off-season guidance and off-season guide for these different teams, and hopefully we can go more in detail as far as like what they need and what kind of moves that every single team needs to do to be better next season. That's pretty much what I have for you guys this evening, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Continue to be positive, and please continue to subscribe and support the channel as well. Ciao guys, peace.